Welcome to The Lens, hosted by Catalysis, where we get a glimpse inside healthcare organizations that are transforming to a culture of improvement to deliver continually higher value outcomes for patients, staff, and communities. Visit createvalue.org/The Lens for more information about Catalysis.
Welcome back to The Lens. I'm your host, Peter Mariahazi. Today, we want to talk about building the foundation for lean transformation. This foundation is the organization's purpose combined with principles and values, and it starts at the executive level. With me today is Tom Hartman, executive coach at Catalysis and former senior executive at Autoliv, the world's largest manufacturer of automotive safety products. Thank you for joining us today, Tom.
Thank you, Peter. Great to be here.
Tom, before we dive in, please just tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have been on the lean journey for 35 years. I've been with Catalysis for 5 years now. I have participated in executive coaching with 124 healthcare executives. I've provided lean support for dozens of healthcare organizations, including 18 who participated in our organizational lean assessment. I was 19 years as an executive with Autoliv, who, as Peter stated, is the world's largest producer of automotive safety products, including 7 years as president of the global airbag inflator division, which included 3 years of training under a Toyota sensei. And finally, I spent 11 years on the advisory board for the Shingo Institute.
Great. Thank you, Tom. You know, we hear often that an organization's culture's transformation starts with the senior leaders. What things do they need to focus on to make the transformation successful?
First of all, the leaders must understand that the change begins with them. If they are willing to transform themselves, then they can be confident about transforming their organization. Leaders must become competent in lean principles and lean methods sufficiently well to become lean teachers. Now, this is a learn-as-you-go proposition, so you don't need to be an expert on day one. Second, leaders must lead by example, focusing on what I call the binocular vision of lean leadership. The idea is you have one eye focused on driving the results. That's never a problem. Everybody has that kind of pressure, and so what we have to focus on is the other eye, which focuses on raising the skill and the ability of the team members of the organization. That's the one that commonly falls off the table, and we must be reminded that. Finally, lean leaders must provide the 3 essential deliverables of lean leadership. First, in the alignment category, set clear expectations for performance and behavior so every team member knows what good looks like. Second, in the enable category, create a safe, respectful environment where team members are held accountable to improve continuously. Third, in the improve category, implement management systems that enable us to delegate authority and responsibility to team members at the front lines.
Boy, that is a very clear set of expectations for the leaders. And I imagine as with any change, there are some common struggles that healthcare executives experience during this change. What are some of those?
Well, leaders feel like lean, commonly they feel that lean is a tool that can be taught by, quote, experts, end quote. This approach is inherently doomed to fail. Lean is a cultural change that must begin at the top, with executives personally transforming themselves while they transform the organization.
So then what are some of the things that those healthcare executives need to do to overcome those barriers if they've got to adopt this and integrate this in their daily work and in their culture? How can they really overcome that and still operate the business?
Healthcare executives must realize that improvement is not optional. CMS reimbursements will never go up. Regulations will always be cumbersome and inefficient. Pharmaceuticals and medical supplies will always increase in price, and caregivers and support personnel will never beg for a reduction in compensation. The transformation requires a true commitment to change and will not be easy on the best of days. However, this transformation will provide success and fulfillment for the organization and its team members.
And one of the things you deliver, Tom, is the coaching to help people guide through that. And so overcoming those barriers, it sounds like they really could use some help and someone to talk to that they can have a friendly ear, if you will.
For sure, Peter. They need to engage with an organization such as Catalysis to help provide a principle-based roadmap for success, which must include all facets of the organization, starting with governance, senior leadership team coaching, as well as for support teams. Management systems must provide the structure within which the creativity of our team members can be unleashed. This culture of continuous improvement will accelerate according to the following formula: more people, more capable of making improvements more frequently. This more formula has worked in dozens of organizations. At Autoliv, we commonly would see between 20 and 70 suggestions implemented per person per year. And I've seen similar kinds of results in healthcare as far as creating this culture.
Great information. You mentioned earlier, Tom, that you're not going to start this transformation journey as an executive being an expert from first day. What advice do you have for those that are looking to begin? What are the best things for them to start the first steps?
Well, first of all, in healthcare, executive leadership must positively engage with physicians and clinical leadership. The clinical training that healthcare providers have received is weak in management and cultural transformation. Executives and physician leaders should join together to lead this cultural transformation. Both must be trained and both must become lean leaders. Engagement can simply be described as overlapping the value stream. For physicians, this is a wonderful antidote to burnout. I have a good friend here in Utah, where I live, who was an emergency room physician, was burned out and had applied to law school. He was leaving his healthcare, his clinical training behind. Once he was introduced to the lean journey, he embraced it, and it's now in the position of corporate leadership for this lean transformation within his healthcare organization.
Wow, that's quite a story of just kind of getting re-energized and looking at the new ways to make a difference in the industry. How, Tom, what other insights and how other ways have you really gained some things? Your initial introduction to lean and the transformation was in manufacturing, and now you spent several years with dozens of organizations in healthcare. What insights have you gained from that experience in healthcare?
Well, first of all, it's all about the people. We need to focus on our people. They are the most valuable asset and the key to sustained improvement. We need to work to create a culture of continuous improvement. Culture, by its very definition, is each person engaging in behaviors that collectively create the culture. So if you have an organization of 8,000 people, for instance, you have 8,000 minds to transform. And some of those transform one at a time, but each one is critical. And the other thing I'd like to emphasize is that while events are nice, they represent exception-based improvement, whether it's a rapid improvement event or any other kind of event. They're fine, nothing wrong with them. But the creation of a culture of continuous improvement is the key to sustained success, as well as team member fulfillment. I usually refer to it as the gift that keeps on giving. Once we create that culture, the improvements become like the waves of the ocean. You're not really aware of them, but they are continuous and they are constant, and they are the key to the sustainable culture that drives improvement, thereby creating the perpetual improvement machine.
Thank you, Tom. That's a great comparative. As we know, events sometimes are relied upon, but for continuous improvement, it sounds like you're saying you just got to, with the culture, it'll happen on its own and continue to develop, and it becomes part of the DNA of the organization. Is that right?
That's correct. And one final thought. There are two ways to learn. You can learn by making mistakes. You can learn by being coached and learning from other people's mistakes. The latter is much easier, and the success is much quicker. Take advantage, as I did when I was trained by a 40-year veteran of Toyota, and we learned from their years and years of experience. And so for any of you who might be interested, I've worked with multiple organizations all over the world, and working with Catalysis is an outstanding way to begin and an outstanding way to drive fulfillment. I've never worked with a better group of people, and as we grow and expand, it just gets even stronger, and the results are more impressive all the time.
Tom, thank you for those very kind words. one last thing, do you have any additional thoughts? Is there anything you can think of that we didn't talk about, or anything last thoughts you want to share with the listeners?
Just to encourage everybody to jump on board. The lean transformation enables you to play offense, so you don't have to worry about playing defense. When you get out ahead of the game, you can be ahead of the challenges that are facing you, and you can address them in anticipation of this ever-changing world within which we live. So I encourage you to embrace the transformation as leaders and engage your people so that they also are feeling that euphoria of being a part of the improvement. So thanks very much, Peter. I appreciate the opportunity for helping out with this endeavor.
Thank you for talking with us today, Tom. Can't say enough. And thank you all for listening. Visit createvalue.org/thelens to learn more about how Catalysis can help you accelerate your organizational transformation with our executive coaching modules and a customized transformation roadmap.
Thank you for listening. Visit createvalue.org/thelens to learn more about how Catalysis can inspire you to accelerate change in your organization.